guys, and welcome to another Christmas Universe. As we are here to finally, we're going to be doing some more Top of the Pops Christmas special reviews, as we're going to be having a chance to look at previous Christmas specials in preparation for these days. We've been getting review of the year specials for Top of the Pops these days, which is now found on BBC Two instead of BBC One, which is a big shock to all of us. The fact that they have now moved it away from BBC One, even though the good old days of Top of the Pops kind of basically is not what it used to be, but it's still present, which is a good thing. So, without further ado, I thought we're going to have a look at the year of 1988. This Christmas special has had a few repeats on BBC Four during Christmas. It might get repeated again this year. We don't know just yet. We can't be 100% sure whether it is going to be part of the repeat schedule or not. But if it is, then but don't worry. There's a YouTube link in the description for those who happen to watch this review. You'll be able to see it through YouTube because luckily people did capture this episode time. So luckily there are some classic recordings of this from the time, which is great. So luckily we've got that to back us up here, which is great. So yeah, Top of the Pops, Christmas 1988, Christmas Day 1988 to be more precise. The presenters at the time, Afian Turner, Bruno Brooks, and Gary Davis, all three of them were the trio presenters of Top of the Pops at the time. And of course, there was quite a lot of music involved in that year. And basically, in case you haven't got it just already, the Top of the Pops Christmas specials was essentially a way for Top of the Pops to sort of look back at the year in music. And essentially, that's what the Christmas specials concept was. So let's go through some of the songs that they highlighted as like music tracks of that year of 1988. And there's actually quite a lot of female singers in this year as well, and a couple of them who actually debuted in that year. So without further ado, we're going to start things off with S Express with the theme S Express. Yeah, trust me, it's kind of catchy. It's very disco-y, very like loud noise, which I'm sure a lot of people loved the S Express theme back in the day. But either way, if you've heard it, then you'll know what I'm talking about, especially for those who grew up in the 80s hearing that tune. But yeah, S Express, of course. And then they highlighted the previous year's Christmas number one, which is the Pet Shop Boys' Always on My Mind, which was the Christmas number one of 87. Also gets highlighted here because what they usually do is they give us a chance to revisit a performance from last year's Christmas number one before revealing the new one at the very end of the show. How these shows work, essentially how they used to work back in the day. And then eventually that we come to basically the female Taj part of the show, where they sort of look back at some of the female artists who were very big that year. Obviously, one of those was Beverly Castley with her song Heaven is a Place on Earth. Obviously, still love it to this day. So Heaven is a Place on Earth, one of the highlights of that year. Also, we have Tiffany. Be interested to see if anyone remembers the singer Tiffany, who sang We're Alone Now, who would eventually inspire Girls Aloud to have their take on that song as well. Yes. And then, of course, Kylie Minogue. Yes, Kylie Minogue made her debut this year in this particular 1988 with the song I Should Be So Lucky. This is her coming off her successful role in Neighbours, Neighbours being her starting point to her stardom, which eventually transitioned her into the music scene and eventually became massive in the music scene many years. And now she's just stuck with that industry ever since leaving acting, even though she does gradually reappear in acting bits of here and there. She would eventually make appearances in big films and stuff, and even to Who years later. Yes, Kylie Minogue, this was at the start of her music career with the song I Should Be So Lucky. And then we have Whitney Houston with One Moment in Time, which was a song features footage of different stars who were athletes that year, because obviously the Olympics was on that year. So of course she was featuring footage of different athletes competing in the Olympics and their professional sports. that year, which was all made up for her music video for One Moment in Time. Obviously, Whitney Houston will always be remembered as a great singer from by many, looked up to her music over the years. And then we have Envoy with Acapella Flow with Sail Away, as people like to nickname this song. But yeah, it's such a great tune, isn't it? Sail Away. Can't get enough of that, obviously. It was a great tune at the past. And yeah, it never gets old for a lot of people. So yes, Error On with Acapella Flow being another major hit, 1988, which is pretty nice. And then eventually we come back to the studio performances with the group Aswan with Don't Turn Around, which originally I believe it was in the top 10, but then eventually it was in the top 10 originally when it came out, and then it eventually came back into the chart and finally got to number one. Oh, I think it got to number one in 1990. So it was at number 10 in 1998, and then eventually in 1998 it would eventually become popular and become a number one hit, which is kind of funny. 2 years later, the song re-emerges in the chart and dominates. There you go. But yeah, so it's great to see. And obviously they would eventually release another cool tune in the 90s as well. See, eventually, if we review that episode, that is. And then we have Fairground Attraction. Perfect. Yeah, it's funny I remember some of the words to that, but anyway, it was quite a tune, wasn't it? Fairground Attraction, perfect. This was a fun performance because the singer was given the her band members orange and even throwing orange to the audience, which I thought was kind of funny how she was doing that during the performance. Kind of funny. And then we come to Camilla Fisher, Love Changes Everything. This was obviously a music video highlight. Oh yeah, this is when they were represented, or I guess you could say the boy band of the year, and Clemmer Fisher was Love Changes, which was another highlight of the year. And then eventually it comes to Bros. Obviously, Bros were massive that year with their first song, When Will I Be Famous, being the first highlight of the year for them of that year. And then, of course, Rick Astley with Together Forever, another big hit for him following his Never Gonna Give You Up, which was another big hit for him. So this was another of his big hits that at the end of the 80s. And then we have Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry. Had to sing it in tune, obviously, but yeah. So that's another tune there. And then, of course, we have Brother Beyond, The Harder I Try, which was the final part of that montage that was shown in the boy band's montage. Well, technically it was labeled as the boys, but technically it's boy band and boys category, if that makes any sense, because there was a lot of bands, and I guess you could say two solo artists that were highlighted in that. And then we come to the next song being Pet Shop Boys with Heart, which was another hit for one of their hits of 1988, which is also highlighted. And then we come to Yaz, who also had a successful year that year with the song The Only Way Is Up, which would inspire the Only Way Is Essex TV series years later. So kind of funny how it's pretty much inspired that series for ITV. And then we come to the Time Lords and Gary Glitter, who did their take of a sort of a Doctor Who theme song, Doctoring the TARDIS. Yeah, apparently Doctoring the TARDIS was a highlight that year, even though this was at the time when Doctor Who was struggling to get, where the BBC was struggling to have faith in the show. They managed to release a single to try and get BBC to stay connected with Doctor Who, but this was around the time when they were getting ready to pretty much possibly get rid of the series. This was around that time, that scary time of Doctor Who's lifetime. The BBC were thinking about the axing of the show. Yeah, you can imagine how scary that was for Doctor Who fans. And then we come to Bros again with I Owe You Nothing. I Owe You Nothing from Bros. Another highlight for them. And then we come to a love song of the year, which is Glenn Barris with Nothing's Gonna Change My Love for You. Obviously, a music video set at the beach with his, I guess you could say it's an actress, potentially, or it might be his girlfriend. We're not too sure. Nevertheless, walking on the sea with a lovely, beautiful woman vibes very well for the music video, so great for him. And then we come to Phil Collins, who eventually they highlight one of his songs that year, Groovy Kind of Love, so that was a big highlight for him. And then we have Robert Bett, The First Time, which was another highlight, another singer who had I guess some success that year. Wet Wet Wet, with a little help from my friends when they did a cover cover of the Beatles hit, The 60s, of course. And then we come to the Hollies, who, funny enough, this song released it in the early 70s. Didn't do too well until we get to 1988, where it finally got to #1 years later. So it took all the way till 1988 just for this song to finally top the chart. It's crazy to think, it's crazy to think that classic songs that released it years ago could take years for them to get to #1. And another example being Wham! Last Christmas. They failed to get Christmas #1 in 1984, but it took them all the way to 2023 just to get that Christmas #1. It's crazy that many years just to get there. Here we are. And then finally we come to another, obviously the Christmas #1 highlight, which of course we all knew the Christmas #1 that year was obviously given to Cliff Richard, Mistletoe and Wine, getting the Christmas #1 of 1988. Obviously it was a big tune, so it makes sense that Cliff Richard would get it because he knows how to make Christmas songs beautifully. So of course he was going to get that. But interestingly, it wasn't the final song of the show, because usually the Christmas #1s usually finish the show. In this special, they ended up giving the performance to Bros to close out the show. Their take of A Christmas Carol, Silent. Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise from Top of the Pops that they gave Bros the opportunity to close out the show with a song that they haven't that I guess properly charted, but they gave them the slot anyway, just so they close out the show with a Christmas tune, just to wish everyone a happy Christmas by singing Silent on Top of the Pops, close out the show, which was a bit of a nice touch to have a boy band who been very successful in 1988 have a chance to close out the show in their own way, in their own style, basically show their talents to everyone and show their singing vocals. Yeah, it was a very beautiful take on Silent Night and a beautiful way to end the show. Christmas Day 1988. Top of the Pops fans will appreciate the fact that Bros were given that opportunity to close the show off, even though Cliff Richard normally be the one who would close it as the Christmas #1. Bros did the honors to do that Christmas, and it obviously because a lot of people loved Bros at the time, so it made sense for them close out the year that year with the Christmas special with their take of A Christmas Carol. So that is the Christmas 1988. That is what 1988 Christmas was all about for Top of the Pops, and obviously the big stars being obviously the debut of Kylie, Whitney Houston, Bros obviously being big, Rick Ashley still being big, and just to see some of the stars who managed to succeed that year and became highlights of Christmas on Top of the Pops. So I would love to know which song did you enjoy in 1998 in the comment section below. If there's any songs that you're if there was any songs that you loved that year, or want to share memories of any songs that you were crazy about in 1998, I would love to, and especially for those who were there at the time, obviously hear from all those who may remember have some memories of 1986 that they would love to share, any like musical memories particularly. But yeah, so that is my thoughts on the Top of the Pops Christmas special 1998. You can watch it on YouTube in the link in the description for those who want to see the episode again and relive that magical day for Top of the Pops. And we're going to have some more Top of the Pops Christmas special reviews, because we are going to have a chance to look back at 1986 at some. I would love to try and look at 2000, even though there's currently no way to watch it on YouTube, which sucks. But unless you watch the performances individually, if that counts, which I think people would prefer the full show, really. But yeah, it just sucks there's no way to watch the 2021 Christmas special at the moment. But then I guess we could revisit the 2022 Christmas special as possibly as well, and relive memories of that Christmas, which was essentially the last time we had Christmas special from Top of the Pops, as they've now been sticking to review of the years now. Yeah, we might have a Christmas special for the 70s as well, possibly, for those who want to relive some Christmas magic. The 70s that Top of the Pops known for. Maybe we will revisit one of those. Who knows? Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.